What up, brawlers? Welcome back to Throwin Hands. First time we've recorded a preview in a while, but hey, we're back at it. We're previewing Jung versus Ortega. Daniel, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to be back at it with these previews. Took a week off from it, but we are right back into things.
Yes, we are. So we're just going to start off with the first event in the main card. Thomas Almeida versus Jonathan Martinez. Both young guys coming up in this division. Almeida fighting for the first time in about 2 years, and Martinez looking to crack up into that top 15 potentially. What are your thoughts on this, on Jonathan Martinez?
Jonathan Martinez comes into this actually fighting at featherweight. He's traditionally been a bantamweight in the UFC. Previously fought most of his time at 135, but he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt. But he's pretty well mixed up in the way he finishes. He's got 7 knockouts, 2 submissions, 3 decisions. So things have gone several ways for him when he's won fights. He's never been knocked out and he's never been submitted. He's got 2 losses by decision, 2 by disqualification. So this guy obviously has never been finished. He's not easy to put away. And in his 5 UFC fights, he's done things a couple different ways. He's got a decision win, a knockout with a knee, and a TKO with knee and punches. And even his losses have been competitive. He's 3-2 in the UFC, a unanimous decision loss in his debut, and a split decision loss back in February. This is going to be his third fight of his third fight of 2020, I should say. And he's moving up to featherweight, which is interesting because his last fight was fought at a catch weight because he missed weight previously. So this is an interesting fight for him. Going to take a chance moving up and fighting this one in the featherweight division.
Yeah, it's a really interesting prospect for Martinez. I think he is an interesting prospect coming in. He's good. He trains at Factory X Muay Thai along with Yusuf Zalal, so he has some pretty good company up there. And he has a lot of potential. These two guys are somewhat similar in the way they fight, but we're going to talk about Almeida for a second. Fights out of Extreme Couture, very good Muay Thai practitioner. Like I said, he's taken a couple years off. He likes to pressure you a lot, flurries you with punches, catches you off guard. What are your thoughts on Thomas Almeida?
Yeah, Almeida's a guy that, despite being 29, has some pretty serious competition on his record. He's been in the UFC since 2014, hasn't fought particularly often, but in that time, he's got 3 losses. There's only 3 professional losses, and they're to Cody Garbrandt, Jimmy Rivera, and Rob Font. So this is a guy that's fought the best of the best, hasn't necessarily beat him, coming from a big layoff. And here he comes in up against Jonathan Martinez. He's been waiting for this comeback fight for a little bit of time now. He was supposed to fight Marlon Vera all the way back in March of last year, had serious vision issues, had to have eye surgery, was hoping to return in 2019. Instead, was supposed to fight was hoping to fight before the end of 2019. Instead, hasn't been given an opportunity until now. Martinez is actually a replacement in this fight that was supposed to happen last week. It was supposed to be Almeida against Alejandro Perez. Martinez steps in, gets an extra week to prepare for this one. And I think this is going to be a really interesting fight because Almeida, like I said, he's 29, but he's fought some of the best in the world.
Definitely. And let's see how he comes back for this one. All right. So the keys to the matchup. For me, I think for Martinez, I think it's definitely in his best interest to keep it standing. If not, he might want to try and work some stuff off his back. But then when it comes to Almeida, they're both very similar. But Almeida does have the advantage on the ground. He has a brown belt in BJJ compared to Martinez's blue belt. So I think if Thomas finds himself in a pickle, I think it's his best option to take it to the ground. What do you have to say?
I would tend to agree with that. I can't argue with much of what you said there. These are 2 guys with pretty similar styles. Like you said, Almeida is going to have the advantage when it goes to the mat.
Alrighty. Predictions. What do you got?
I'm going to take Jonathan Martinez in this one. I think the youngster, not youngster, he's 26 years old, but the younger man comes out. He's going to be excited for this fight. He's going to be hyped up to take on somebody with a pretty strong track record. And I think it's going to take Almeida a little bit of time to settle in after an almost a 2-year layoff. So almost a 3-year layoff. It'll be 3 years in January since he's last fought. So I'm going to go Martinez in this one. I'm going to go with the young guy.
Yeah, I'm going to take Martinez by decision. All right, to the next matchup of the day. Interesting matchup. Claudio Silva, 14-1, but he's 38 years old. Very interesting guy in this division against James Krause, who's become a little bit more known for his coaching in the past couple of years. James Krause he's a submission artist, but he can also get it done with his hands. That's how he gets to you to the submissions. What are your thoughts on James Krause?
Krause, like you said, great on the ground, but he can handle himself with his hands as well. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, has been fighting since 2007, 35 professional fights. He's only got 8 losses. and 14 of them have come by submission. He's coming off a split decision loss against Trevin Giles, but before that he'd won 6 in a row, and he's fought a lot of the people there are to fight in this weight class. He's got a loss to Jorge Masvidal, but he's a multi-weight class fighter. He's fought at welterweight. He's fought at middleweight. He actually had his middleweight debut against Trevin Giles in that loss. But James Krause, outstanding on the ground, has some power in his hands if he needs it, and he's just a pretty well-rounded fighter. Like you said, has turned to coaching a little bit more recently, but he can still get it done in the octagon.
Definitely. I'm not even going to add anything to what you said. But on to Silva, he's old, but he can get the job done. The only loss on his record is his first fight ever. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt out of American Top Team, so he trains with some pretty prominent guys. And he has a lot of movement, and he's very patient. I guess that comes with old age. He's seen a lot in his career, even though he hasn't fought too much. What are your thoughts on Silva?
Yeah, Silva, 38 years old, 9 submissions. This is going to be a fight that's decided on the ground. I think that's pretty clear. Like you said, Silva, a little bit of a wily veteran. He's only fought 15 times as a pro. He's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's also been active since 2007. These are guys with relatively similar fighting styles and relatively similar trajectories in the UFC. It's impressive to me. It was a split decision, but he's got to win against Leon Edwards in his welterweight debut. He's a very talented fighter. He, like you said, he's not fought very often. He took a 3-year layoff between his first 2 professional fights and his third. Took a 2-year layoff from 2010 to 2012. Took 2 years off from 2012 to 2014, and then 4 years off from 2014 to 2018. And he's only fought 3 times since then. So Silva's a guy. He fights sporadically. He's not been around that much even since he's been a pro for 13 years, but he's very talented at what he does.
Definitely. So, keys for the matchup. I think these guys are both very talented on the ground, and they can handle themselves on the feet. So, it'll be a pretty close matchup. I think James Krause has a slight advantage on the feet, but when it goes to the ground, I think these two guys are pretty even. So, I think it really just depends who pushes the action more, who puts the pressure on. I think that could be James Krause. What are your thoughts on the keys?
I think you hit the nail right on the head there. It's going to be a matter of who controls the pace of the fight, who controls it when it goes to the ground. I think Krause is in a position to have more an advantage on the feet, which I think will allow him to set up a potential takedown better. And I think that's the way he needs to go, is keep the pace up, keep Silva moving backwards. He's probably going to have superior conditioning as well, and I think he needs to use that to his advantage.
For sure. All right, predictions. I can take James Krause by knockout in this one. I think he just has the advantage on the feet, and I think he might keep it there a little bit longer than Silva will expect. So give me Krause by knockout. What do you have?
I agree with you. Krause by KO.
Ooh, all right, here we go. To some very intriguing prospects in this light heavyweight division. You can't deny that. You have Jim Croot from Australia versus Modestas Pikowskis from Lithuania, rather. These two guys, they're both very good at what they do. But what are your thoughts on Modestas Pikowskis?
The Baltic Gladiator. That's my favorite. That's one of my new favorite nicknames in the UFC. 11-2 though, 7 straight wins. Fights out of England, and he's had a ton of success. This is going to be his second UFC fight. He was outstanding in Cage Warriors. That's where 6 of those 7 wins on this 7-fight win streak came, and he just knocks people out. He's got a couple rear naked choke wins, but he just knocks people out. He defeated Andreas Michailidis by retirement at the end of the first round in his first UFC fight. Then you go down the rest of his wins: KO by elbows, KO by punches, KO by punches. The one's just listed as KO/TKO in the first round, and then he's got those 2 rear naked chokes. He's an outstanding fighter. He's an extremely talented fighter. He hasn't lost since 2016 when he lost back-to-back fights after starting his career 4-0. But when you look up and down what Modestas Pikowskis can do, he's a big fighter. He's a long fighter who can knock people out. He's 6'3" and has a 78-inch reach. He's very powerful, and he's very good at what he does.
You summed that up perfectly. So I'm going to sum up Jim Croot perfectly. So Jim Croot, he's good at basically everything he wants to do. He has a boxing background, a karate background, a judo background, and a Brazilian jiu-jitsu background. He does pretty much what he wants. He's very relaxed. He's a little slow, but he's pretty refined as well. And he's also extremely aware of his position, where his body parts are. He knows what to do in every single position, it seems like. What are your thoughts on Jim Croot?
Yeah, Kroot's awareness is what stands out, as you said. He's constantly aware of what's going on around him, aware of what he's trying to do, aware of what his opponent is trying to do. And I think it's because he's got such a well-rounded background. He knows exactly what it's going to take. He's got a history of boxing in his family. He has a karate background, as you said, a strong judo background, and then a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So when it comes to anything you want to do in the octagon, Jim Croot can probably match you at it.
Definitely. So to keys, I think obviously for Modestas Pikowskis is definitely keep it on the feet, use his reach, just pick his strikes, pick and choose. And for Jim Croot, I think it's a feeling out process for him. I think if he feels what he needs to go to the ground, he'll keep it on the ground. If he feels he needs to stay on the feet, he can keep it on the feet. That's just because he has a wide skill set. What are your thoughts on the keys for these guys?
Nothing I can add to that.
All righty. Predictions. I'm going to take Jim Croot by submission. What do you got?
I'm getting Pikowskis in a knockout. I love watching this guy. I think he's going to pull it off.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love both these guys. Anyway, to an interesting co-main event of the evening. Katlyn Chookagian coming off a win against Antonina Shevchenko back in June, if I'm not mistaken, and Jessica Andrade coming off a loss against Rose Namajunas, coming up a division to compete with Katlyn Chookagian. Now, when I saw this, I was very I don't know. Intrigued isn't the right word. I was surprised because Jessica Andrade is small, height-wise, even for the strawweight division. She's shorter than my sister, and she's 5'2", and she's tiny. And this is an interesting matchup. What are your thoughts on this matchup coming up?
I think, like you said, there's some concerns for Andrade stepping up to fight Chookagian, but this is a fight that is going to be good for both of these women, I think. I think this is a division that needs some contenders in it, and it needs some people to compete. And I think that's what we're going to see here. Chookagian, she does what she does. She was coming off – she's fought the Shevchenko sisters in her last two fights, beat Antonina in the last one by decision, got knocked out by Valentina in a title fight back in February. But these are two very talented women, two very exciting women to watch. Katlyn Chookagian, the master of the decision victory when it comes to women's UFC. And then Andrade has power in her hands and the ability to submit people despite coming off back-to-back losses. They were to Zhang Weili and Rose Namajunas. So these two women going head-to-head is going to be fireworks, I think. And this is a fight that could be probably a main event on a fight night, and we're lucky to be getting it as a co-main.
Definitely. And it's an interesting matchup because of the very the large discrepancies of both reach and leg reach, especially for a woman like Chookagian who likes her karate style. So we're going to get the keys right now. So I think for Andrade, I think it's her best option to just dirty this fight up as much as possible. She has to make it stressful for Chookagian and just bring it to the ground, gain some top control, and just don't let her go. Because we saw that Valentina Shevchenko did that, and Chookagian couldn't do anything. So what are your thoughts on this? What are the keys?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key. The more dirty this fight gets, the more of an advantage Jessica Andrade is going to have. I think if Katlyn Chookagian can essentially turn this into a more traditional boxing or Thai boxing fight, then I think she'll have a better chance just because of the way these two match up. Andrade obviously has knockout power, but I think the more traditional this fight stays, the more opportunities Chookagian is going to have to win this. And I think the longer this fight goes, the more opportunities Chookagian is going to have to win it.
Perfectly said, Daniel. All right, two predictions. I'm torn on this one personally. I think Jessica Andrade is aggressive enough to dirty it up and make it a phone booth fight, but I think Chookagian's disciplined enough to not let that happen. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna take Andrade by knockout. What do you got?
I'm going with the classic Katlyn Chookagian decision.
You can't go wrong there. All right, to the main event of the evening. Something we've all been looking forward to. Brian Ortega versus Chan Sung Jung. The winner of this fight gets the next title shot, according to Dana White, against Volkanovski. I don't think we can disagree on that. What are your thoughts on that statement by White?
I think it makes a ton of sense. These are the guys that are really at the top of those rankings, number 2 and number 4. Whoever wins this is clear-cut the next guy set up for a title shot.
Definitely. So what are your thoughts on the zombie, man?
Chan Sung Jung, they call him the Korean zombie for a reason. He's got a ton of ability. He can put you to sleep either with his hands or with a choke or a submission, anything. He's got a Darce choke finish as well. So you look at what this guy does. He's got all kinds of submissions, but he's got knockout power as well. You look at his background, and it reads like just a list of mastery in any kind of martial art you can think of. Third-degree black belt in Hapkido, third dan black belt in Taekwondo, black belt in Judo, brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is a guy that's as well-rounded as anybody in this division, and he uses it to his best ability.
Definitely, I think that this will present a little problem to Brian Ortega, who's more one-sided when it comes to his grappling. His striking has improved. He did stand there and bang with Max Holloway 2 years ago, but I'm interested to see how his striking has progressed over the past 2 years, because I think that's very important when it comes to coming up against Chan Sung Jung. What are your thoughts on Ortega?
I think Ortega is really exciting. He's really entertaining to watch, and he's really talented. Great in submissions. Was 14-0 before taking a loss to Max Holloway back in 2018 in his first challenge for the UFC featherweight title, and he hasn't fought since then. We're not exactly sure what we're going to see after almost a 2-year layoff for Brian Ortega, but you look up and down, he's beat Frankie Edgar, Cub Swanson, Clay Guida. These are guys that have talent that he's knocked off since he's been in the UFC, and there's a reason that his last fight was for a championship.
Definitely. All right, keys for the matchup. I think for Ortega, I don't know, since we haven't seen Ortega, I don't know how his skill set has improved. I think based on what I've seen from Ortega, it's his best option to get to the ground and just kind of pick his shots on the ground, for lack of a better term. Just be patient and try to get the submission. But hey, if he's figured out how to stand up and bang, good for him. What are your keys for Ortega?
I think Ortega is going to be best served to take this fight to the ground. That's where he's got almost all of his all of his finish victories, I should say. I think this is going to be a fight that's fought with a little bit of gas behind it. These are going to be two guys that don't like each other. These are going to be two guys that are going right at each other. And I think if he can take it to the ground, if he can handle it there, then this is the best case for him.
Definitely. And for Chan Sung Jung, I think him keeping it on feet would be the best option, but he shouldn't be concerned if it goes to the ground, because he's so well versed in on the ground with grappling. I think Chan Sung Jung can take this wherever he wants. What do you have to say?
Yeah, Jung is going to be best served to control the pace of this fight and kind of make Ortega come to him, because he's going to be able to handle him, honestly, no matter where it happens.
So predictions, what do you got?
I got Korean Zombie and a knockout.
Same. All right. So that does it for the preview of Fight Night Ortega versus Jung. But we have important news to discuss. What do you got, Daniel?
Well, Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor is going to happen in January. That is obviously the bigger mainstream news. There's some other news coming along, but those guys are going to duke it out in January. That's a fight we've been waiting for a really long time. And Conor McGregor comes out of retirement for the 19th time, it seems like. Here you go.
Yeah, definitely. It's exciting. It's exciting. That's really it's exciting. There's nothing else to say. So more things. Aljo and Piotr Jan are going to be fighting at UFC 256 in December, but they're going to be the co-main event. There's been a lot of flack for that coming from the MMA community, with Megan Anderson and Amanda Nunes being the main event. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's interesting. The way the card is organized, who really cares? You're getting fights. You're getting fights at a high level, and that's what you really want. I'm excited to see Jan and Aljo go at it. I think that's going to be a really entertaining fight. I think that's really going to make that division pop, and I think that's one of the deeper divisions, and I think it's going to set the tone for it to really be on display in 2021.
Definitely. There's a couple other things. Neil Magny and Khamzat Chimaev are probably going to go at it. I think that might be the next fight. What are your thoughts on that one?
I'm excited for that. I think that's a good matchup. Magny kind of stepped up to kind of take a shot at Khamzat Chimaev, and I think this is going to be a good test for Chimaev. Neil Magny is a guy that doesn't, he's not exciting. He doesn't do a ton that's going to really thrill you, that's going to make highlights that go wild on Twitter. But Neil Magny's a very talented fighter, and he's going to be a pretty steady test for Khamzat Chimaev, and we can really see where he's coming along at this point.
Definitely. A couple other minor things here that I see. Devin Clark versus Anthony Smith is November 28th, and UFC has booked Jordan Espinoza, and Tim Elliott for the January 16th event. So, a lot of minor things going on. Do you have anything else?
The 254 card is out. Islam Makhachev was originally going to fight on that. He is not anymore. But the full 254 card looks pretty good. You've got Ankalaev Kudalaba, finally. Calvillo Murphy, Volkov, Walt Harris, Robert Whittaker, Jared Cannonier, and then of course the main event is Khabib and Justin Gaethje. That's a good looking card.
That's a stacked card. I loved how you said finally for these two, but the past 3 times this thing is booked, it's not. It's fallen through. So let's not say finally just yet.
And then even your featured prelim is Stefan Struve versus Tai Tuivasa. So that's a great fight as well.
Yeah, two big dudes going at it. So I forgot how tall. Geez, that's a 10-inch difference right there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this will be fun. That's a fun card. All right, we're previewing it next week. Do you have anything else?
Nothing really to speak of. I will say, interestingly enough, coming up on that card as well at 254, you got Khabib in the main event, but making his UFC debut on the prelims is his cousin Umar Nurmagomedov. So that's going to be something to keep an eye out on as well.
Ooh, okay, that is something to keep an eye of. You can find that on Fight Pass prelims if you're interested enough. And Casey Kenny's coming back to fight Nathaniel Wood 3 weeks after. So. Good stuff. All right. That's all I got. You got anything else?
I'm good.
All right, guys. That'll do it for another episode. We'll be back Tuesday for the review of Fight Night 180, Ortega versus Jung. Thanks, Dan, for coming back on.
A pleasure as always.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.